Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. It's Monday, October the 30th. And like every Monday, I'm joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. And boy, oh boy, another weekend of college football and the NFL in the books, Doug. I kissed my sister this weekend going 5-5 between college football and the NFL. I hope you did better than that.
Well, I did do a little better than that, Ross, and it has not been my best college football season. That's understating the situation, but it's been working at it every single week to get it better, and so finally did. Went 4-2 in college football, so that was good to get that going, and went had a fortunate push. And speaking of kissing your sister, I had a fortunate push with Seattle yesterday, and so that was good. But I did hit my 6-unit play, which was an easy one with Dallas, and you know how that goes,
Yeah.
Ross. Anytime you get those easy ones, you always are smiling ear to ear and actually kind of half waiting for something bad to happen when it's occurring. But then when you have a substantial lead, there you go. It's good. So
Did you
five
have
two
the
and one.
Chargers last night as well? Did you?
The Chargers, I passed on that game. Shouldn't have,
Yeah,
but I
me
did not.
myself as well.
Yes.
Sometimes we get a little too cute in games like that look obvious. I know myself, I get a little too cute. I passed on it. And, I had it written down, and then I saw the money going the Chargers' way, and I said, I'm going to just pass. And one of those, you kick yourself in the behind, but you know what? There's a lot of times you make last minute decisions that work out for you, and you don't talk about it other than saying it won, right? So,
Right, right.
college
Well,
football right now, before we get to some college football, we'll discuss a little bit of NFL, what occurred yesterday. But just a friendly reminder, folks, we are sponsored by Gamblers World. You could find us, all the handicappers, including myself, 10 top pros over at gamblersworld.net. Our video side of the company is at gamblersworld.com. And don't forget, every Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern time, folks, our live show. And I know a lot of you like to chime in with your questions and comments on our archives. This gives you an opportunity to be assured that when you ask a question or comment on a specific topic, that you're going to get just about an immediate response. And we get to as many people as we can, time permitting. And so don't forget, put that in your calendar every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time for our live show right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. All right, Doug. Well, it's we're getting into November, and it's time to really start separating the pretenders from contenders. And we saw some things happen this past week. Oklahoma had their perfect season go down the drain, although I wouldn't count them out just yet because if they run the table and win the Big 12, they still got to be given, I would think, serious consideration when it comes to the college football playoff. But here's the thing: we were talking off air, and you mentioned some things to look for, teams that are wearing down, especially defensively. And I said, if you could find a team that's wearing down defensively and then also find a team that plays extremely fast, there's a correlation. Okay. And especially if that team that loves to play real fast isn't putting up the gaudy offensive numbers they were early in the year, and they're not sustaining drives and their defense is on the field a lot. But anyway, I know you had some thoughts in this regard.
yeah, I mean, generally speaking, if you're, and this could be a lot of different, a lot of these teams obviously are going to be in your top 25, going forward, that we're talking about both ways actually right now, and or some of the teams that are kind of coming up on the outside. Maybe they're not going to be, not contenders, but teams that are playing well and could do well. And one that comes to mind, kind of in that vein to start with, is Miami of Ohio. Now they lost to Toledo the week before in a game that I don't know. They just didn't play particularly well, but they after that tough loss, they had to go on the road to Ohio University. And what did they do? They handed it to them. Okay. And Ohio's a good club. Beat them 30-16, I believe is what it was. And they were, once again, the more physical team. I believe they're 7-1 against the spread now. The Red Hawks are. But more specifically then, look for teams that are more physical, that can run the ball. They can stop the run. and have let's just say, an above average passing game. Those types of teams are good fits for the month of November. They tend to wear well. You'll find some instances where they will be have inflated numbers, but that's up to you and up to Ross and I to determine who those types of teams are. Okay, from that standpoint. But that's something that I look very closely at. And you mentioned like Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's defense, you could see it kind of coming. And I took Kansas this week. I didn't think they'd pull the upset. But the thing about it is their defense was getting softer each and every week, okay, giving up a lot of points. And, I believe they play Oklahoma State this week, maybe for the last time in that rivalry game. And, Oklahoma State's on fire right now. Talk about an offense that's clicking. there's one that is. And so
I didn't see that coming at the beginning of the year, Doug. I'll tell you that, because they were terrible early on.
Yeah, after they lost to South Alabama. I mean, that was tough. Anyway, so those are the type of teams to look for. And then the type of teams to look to fade are teams that defensively seem to be wearing down. Maybe they have injuries, okay? Maybe the offense isn't quite as good. And obviously, Washington seems to be in that boat a little bit right now. So they're going to be favored in a number of games. We'll see if they're able to hold up. And conversely, another team just off the top of my head here that's looking that they bounce right back, Oregon. Just a decisive run game.
You stole my thunder, buddy, because I was going to say,
that's okay. Paying you back. I'm paying you back.
I was going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it right now. Although they have one loss, that narrow loss at Washington, where they screwed up at the end of the game, in my opinion. Missed the tying field goal that was very makeable on the last play of regulation time. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say right now, in my mind, and from my eye test, from what I've seen, the Oregon Ducks are the best team in the country right now. That includes Georgia. I know they got one loss and Georgia's undefeated. I think Bo Nix is just a tremendous college football quarterback. Let me preface that, because I don't see him being a big factor at the NFL level, but he keeps putting up those kind of numbers. He's probably going to get picked in the draft in April somewhere. And you might be able to find a spot for him on your roster as well. But having said that, what I really like about Oregon compared to past Oregon teams is Dan Lanning. His trademark has been as a defensive coordinator. You could see where Oregon has improved dramatically defensively. And I think if you look at their overall numbers defensively, it goes askew a little bit because, like I alluded to, Oregon likes to play really fast, and it gives the other team more possessions than normal. Now, having said that, this isn't an Oregon team that qualifies in terms of defense wearing down because of their style of play offensively. I think Washington, as you alluded to, falls into that category. They like to go, 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 and you leave your defense hung out to dry when you don't sustain drives. And you know what, Doug? You look at their offensive numbers over the last few weeks. They're still pretty good, but they're nowhere near as the gaudy numbers they were putting up early on. And they've struggled against what could be perceived as some pretty inferior competition. So look to fade Washington in the coming weeks in an overvalued spot. And I can assure you that somewhere along the line, they're going to be overvalued. Now, this week, Doug, they're at USC. They're just a 3.5 point favorite in that game. I wouldn't consider that being overvalued because USC is a good fit for Washington because they can't stop anybody, and if Washington is going to wake up offensively, it's going to be this week. Now, if they don't, and we continue to see the trend in the regression offensively as compared to where they were in the first half of the season against a poor defense in USC, every red flag should come up wherever you are. Okay, so again, we'll see going forward. In NFL yesterday, the one thing, I'm watching the Minnesota game yesterday because I had the Vikings. And I'm thinking to myself, after watching them against San Fran, and then reading into their numbers and why I took them yesterday wasn't the fact that they have this dynamic offense that they've had in years past, like Justin Jefferson's out of the lineup. Kirk Cousins was playing great ball. But the Minnesota defense has really, really shined over the last 5 weeks now. Unfortunately, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? They continue to play like this, they're going to give Detroit all they can handle. And then lo and behold, Kirk Cousins goes down with an Achilles injury, non-contact type of injury. Most of the time, that's what we see with these Achilles injuries, Doug. Yeah. And it seems to happen to quarterbacks a lot for whatever reason. But boy, oh boy, that was a heartbreaker for the Vikings and Vikings faithful.
Yeah, that was tough, and it was equally as painful watching the Packers play. By the way, at the same time, I mean, wow, that I don't even know what words to put there. But yes, but Minnesota played, I thought, fearless. They had no fear whatsoever of the Packers offense at all, and then the Packers run defense is just so pathetic that they didn't even run the ball that great, but whenever they needed anything, they got it. Okay. And that was the thing. And so, so that was striking. The Dallas Cowboys continuing to get points from almost every possible way. Okay. Is just amazing. Whether it be, not only offense, but defense, special teams, they just generate so many different ways. And, you say what you want about Dak Prescott, and I'm not a huge fan, as I'm sure many people watching this are not either. But tell you what, when you have the ability to change games in so many different ways, you're a dangerous team. I mean, unless you're playing a team that just plays air-free football a lot, okay. Cowboys are going to be in a lot of these games, and if they keep improving, which seems very possible, especially offensively, boy, this is a team, at least to my eye, I like. And then San Francisco, Ross. I mean, here we were ready to anoint them, the Super Bowl champions and what have you. And it seems like, now this has nothing to do with defense, but what the Brock Purdy that I saw at Ohio State and that at Iowa State and that I have mentioned on this show, he's playing like Brock Purdy now.
It's awful ironic. A few weeks ago, I don't know if I asked you, but I know I asked Jesse and Sean, and I might have asked you too, but I said, when do we start talking about this guy in the elite category of being a starting quarterback in the NFL? And my point was at the time, why I wouldn't yet anoint him in that regard. Was the fact he only had a handful of starts under his belt. I mean, because he wasn't healthy last year. And since I said that, been a total regression. So I'm glad that I didn't act too quick on that to make a comment, because I would have looked awful foolish right now. You never know, though. I mean, look, Deebo Samuel's out of the lineup. They're missing their star offensive lineman and Trent Williams. They can get healthy and they can get dangerous in a hurry. I mean, Deebo Samuel, I think, is a very underrated player in terms of how it's affecting the 49ers offensively right now. So he's a guy who can do a lot, beat you in a lot of ways, end around, bubble screens, beat you vertically. So again, and go back to Minnesota. What do they do at quarterback now, Doug? Jalen Hall. Is it Jalen? It's the kid from BYU, the rookie from BYU. I wasn't crazy about him at BYU, to be quite frank with you. And now he stands to be the starting quarterback. I know Nick Mullins they had there, but he's on IR still, and he won't be back until next month. And even if you were to sign somebody off the street with experience or make a trade at the trade deadline, which is 4 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time, how quick can somebody learn an offense? And even if you do start them, the playbook's going to be limited. But in their situation, they're playing good enough defense. But that's a tough ask for anybody to step in right now at quarterback.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's face it. The NFL, there's a reason why we've talked about this. There's a reason why every guy's a backup. Okay, and so with that being the case, they're going to get exposed. And so, with rare exception, Nick Foles probably being the most exceptional part of that and that was just in one part of one season, where everything was so good. But beyond that, I mean, he's never won a job otherwise. Okay. And so, it's a tough break across the board, for the Vikings. And they're playing better. I still don't know how good they really are, but they are definitely playing better. The coach has done a better job.
I'm not implying that they had a chance to. Well, I'm implying what I was implying with Cousins. To me, they were looking like a legitimate threat, even as a wild card team, especially in the NFC. So, in any event, that injuries are part of the game. It's unfortunate. All right, let's get to college football. Just a friendly reminder, folks, before we get to our 2 college football picks. And both games go on Thursday night, folks. So if you're wondering why we're touching upon some games that aren't the most attractive on the board, we want to cover Thursday night for you. There's 3 games. We got 2 of them right here. But if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, take a second to do so. It costs you absolutely nothing. There's no strings attached. And you're privy to the best sports betting podcast on the internet today in the format that we use. So in any event, all you need to do is hit that WC logo right below you. If you're watching on your PC, if you're on your smart TV, or you're on your mobile device, there's a black subscribe button right underneath. Just click on that. That will get you subscribed, and then take just a couple extra seconds, and go into your YouTube settings, and there's alert notification bell. Click that for the game or for the Winner's Circle sports betting channel, and you'll be notified immediately upon us publishing any of our podcasts right here on our great channel. All right, Doug, let's get to the games at hand. You're going to be looking at Thursday night battle between Wake Forest and Duke, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Duke is coming off humbling 23-0 loss at Louisville, and Wake Forest loses 41-16 to a very good Florida State team. But right now, the number is Duke minus 12.5. Take it away, my friend.
Yes, that's going to be on ESPN on Thursday night, by the way, as well. Now, with Riley Leonard, beat up, got hurt against Notre Dame, missed one game, came back, against Florida State. Obviously, was still compromised. Not bad, but it wasn't 100%. Then he got hurt, and they were in that game against Florida State, by the way. And then he got hurt, and then this seems like the defense sagged. The whole team, as it turns out, sagged. They lost 38-20. That put them, I thought, in an extremely compromised position, having to go to Louisville. Tough loss, second straight road game against a ranked team that was coming off a bye and also off their first loss of the season. Well, Blue Devils got hammered 23-0. I'm sorry. Yeah, Blue Devils got hammered 23-0. However, Mike Elko, I give him a lot of credit, for what he's doing at Duke. So the message to me seems pretty clear, is that, we're sitting at 5-3, but we can still be a 10-win team. And that's kind of what I think what the thing is. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, they got to go undefeated the rest of the ACC season. Now, Leonard isn't going to be 100%, in my opinion, the rest of the year. So it's going to require more of his teammates, but they're going to be at home and taking on a Wake Forest team that does some things well on defense and does some other things not so well. Offensively, Duke averages 179 yards per game on the ground. They're going to have to get that or more against Wake Forest. Wake Forest is actually not bad against the run. They're 129th. The weakness, though, is their pass defense, 114th. And then of their 8 contests, they've given up 300 or more yards passing in half those games. Now, Wake Forest is coming off 2 seasons in which they won 8 games respectively, veteran teams with Sam Hartman as their quarterback. This year, the Deacons got much younger, and it's showing up on both sides of the ball, especially, I mentioned the pass defense. The other thing, too, is their running game. The foundation of their offense under Dave Clawson has been running the ball. This year, they're averaging 143 yards per game, and in their 3 road games, that drops to 78 yards per game. Cannot run the ball at all. From that standpoint, the passing game, It is 200 yards, not great from that standpoint. Duke is number 9 in points surrendered at just 15 a game. I think Duke's going to take care of this game despite some of their obstacles. Like I said, Mike Elko, I think what he's going to do is going to try and set things up to where they're going to run screen passes, slants, what have you, to take advantage of that Wake Forest defense. Blue Devils can certainly slow down the Deacons offense, and the Demon Deacons are also averaging 2 turnovers a game. Clinchers for me, Duke 8-1 as a home favorite, winning by more than 20 points per game. Wake Forest 6-16 in road games after being outgained by 225 or more yards. Ross, give me the Duke Blue Devils minus the 12.5 in this one.
All right, Duke minus 12.5 in an ACC battle over Wake Forest on Thursday evening. And again, folks, that game goes at 7:30 Eastern time, and it will be aired nationally on ESPN, as Doug touched upon. The big thing for me in this matchup is Riley Leonard and his availability, because not to pick on the backup quarterback, but boy, oh boy, he's shown me nothing. There's a huge disparity between when Leonard's on the field and when he's on the field. So if Leonard is a go, again, I think they have to treat him with kid gloves, though. I think a 50% healthy Leonard is a heck of a lot better than the backup they have right now, with no disrespect intended toward the kid. It's not his fault they don't have a better backup. He does what he can do. But Coach Elko, I think that's something he needs to address going forward if he wants to keep Duke relevant. And he's done a great job since he came aboard last year. And Riley Leonard, I think they rushed him back too quick myself, because that was a brutal ankle injury the way it looked a lot worse than it actually was in the game against Notre Dame. But I would, when you take away, here's a tough thing. It's like telling Josh Allen not to run because you're going to get hurt eventually. You don't want to take that aggressive mindset away from a quarterback that has the ability to beat you with his legs, and also to improvise and throw on the run. But the bottom line is sometimes you have to help that quarterback not injure himself further. And that's something that's got to be drilled in the head. That's a tough ask. Where do you go with that as a head coach? I don't want you to run as much, but I want you to still be a little bit aggressive, but be smart. It throws an element of confusion when it comes to the quarterback making decisions. So in any event, Doug, Mr. Upstone, he likes he likes Duke minus 12.5 over Wake Forest. I'm going to look at the Thursday night matchup between Texas Tech and Texas. The game will be played in Lubbock, home field of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. 7 o'clock Eastern time start. Right now, Texas Tech is a 3-point favorite. The game opened with Tech being a 1.5-point favorites, quickly moved to 3. TCU 4-4 on the season, but they've lost 3 of their last 4. They did have last week off, and they needed it because they got lambasted against Kansas State 41-3. Now, that loss doesn't look nearly as bad as it did then, because Kansas State is just kicking everybody's tail right now in recent weeks. But in any event, they've had a week to think about it. And Texas Tech, this is a team that's just 3-5. Really, when it comes down to it, they're 2-5 against FBS opponents. And they've yet to beat an FBS opponent this season with a win percentage of 500 or better. As a matter of fact, they're 0-5 straight up in those situations. TCU is a 4-4 team. They do have a quality win, too, TCU, against SMU. I know people are going to say, well, that's outside of the Big 12. Yeah, but if you look at how SMU has been playing of late, SMU could beat half the teams in the Big 12 right now, if not more than half. All right, so the other concerning factor for Texas Tech, when I look at them, their last 3 games, they've turned the ball over 10 times and have a -9 turnover differential. Not exactly bold confidence when you combine that with the fact what I just said, they haven't beat a quality team yet. And with the exception of the Kansas State loss, this is a TCU team that's rang up 398 yards or more of total offense in 7 of their 8 games this year, and they've allowed 17 or less in 4 of their 8 contests. So not as bad a 4-4 team as it might look. And Texas Tech, to me, is they were supposed to be formidable at the beginning of the year. They had like 19 or 20 starters coming back, including all 11 guys on offense, but they've far from lived up to expectations, and they've underachieved. TCU is one of the last 4 in a series, Doug. I'm going to have a very small lean, especially at this juncture of the week. We are taping on Monday. The game goes on Thursday, but I'm going to have a small lean right now and take the Horned Frogs of TCU plus the 3 over Texas Tech.
And I'm going to agree with you 100% on that one, Ross. Talked at the top of the show here about physical teams. Well, that's one thing that Texas Tech is not. And in fact, the Red Raiders, if you go back, I mean, I'm talking about going back decades. This team hasn't had a lot of success. They've had some really good quarterbacks, but this team has always been based on finesse offenses. And yeah, from time to time, they've run the ball well, some seasons, but basically that's been their problem. They just don't get the job done running the ball and balancing it out the passing game that they have. This team, this year's team, very soft, in my opinion. I think it's been proven highly overrated from that standpoint. As far as TCU, you mentioned some of their good points. And I like how they have the ability to run the ball. They can certainly throw the ball. Defense is definitely better than last year. I think you add all those elements up that way. I think you're looking at a TCU win on the road in Lubbock, probably by at least a touchdown.
This is a big rivalry game, Doug, too.
Yep.
I didn't realize how big a rivalry game this is. But, TCU located in Fort Worth and their neighboring city there at Lubbock, I believe, or whatever the case may be. I'm not sure how close they are.
Lubbock's out in West Texas, so it's quite a ways away. But still, I mean, they've been rivals for a long time, from that standpoint. So, and they're competing for the same players in many cases as well.
Yeah, and they trade barbs with each other, and I mean, on social media and the whole 9 yards. So, all right. So I like TCU plus the 3 over Texas Tech, and Doug likes the Duke Blue Devils minus 12.5 at home over the Wake Forest Deacons. Both games go on Thursday night. Both will be on national TV, folks. So there you have it. That's why we covered these 2 games. I mean, there's a lot better games on the board, unequivocally so. But again, a lot of football to be played. Few games on Tuesday, a couple on Wednesday. Then we get the NFL back on Thursday. And Syracuse plays on Friday. I'm a big Syracuse fan. I always have been, but enough already. It's embarrassing. Why Dino Babers has got to go. I'm sorry, folks. I mean, bottom line is the guy gets off to these great starts every year. It's the same pattern. 4-0 this year. They start to play ACC opponents, especially quality opponents, and they get blown out of the water. And I'm not sure why they're a favorite on Thursday night or Friday. Is it Thursday or Friday? Friday, I think it is, at home against Boston College. So we'll see what happens there. But, Doug, tell the folks a little bit about what's going on at DocSports.com with Mr. Upstone. And also, you have a great podcast as well with Scott Sprecher. When I say our podcast is the best, I don't mean to slight anybody else, folks, and especially my partner, Doug, here. But, I'm pretty confident when I say that at this. And again, when I say that, everybody's format's different, okay? So if you're in Doug's case with Scott, who's going to tell you more right now, they cover a lot of games. But anyway, I'll let you take it away, Doug.
Yeah, well, the one biggest difference between the two formats, and I enjoy myself equally as well, just so that everybody understands that, is that Scott and I it's a paid format. It's $19.99 a month. It's us against the spread, just like it sounds, and that's us against the spread .docsports.com. And so, so we cover basically per month 90 to 100 games. And this past weekend, for example, went 5-2 in we occasionally do pass, and I did pass on one game. So 5-2 in college football and went, I think, well, right now sitting at 7-4 going into the tonight's game from that standpoint. So we have that. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Hit both best bets also, by the way, or what we call money shots, because these picks are not to be confused with what I'm selling at Doc Sports. Completely separate deal, okay, from that standpoint. So that was very good. And but hey, we just keep plugging away, and the response has been great. So we'll just try and continue that. And speaking of the response being great, like I said, had a 6-unit winner yesterday with the Dallas Cowboys. That's the fifth winning week out of the last 6 in the NFL, and on best bets of 6 units or higher, also 5-1 run. So really happy with that. So another big week of NFL. Week 9, the halfway point, okay, of the season in terms of the 18-week season. So I can't say, I don't know if about you, Ross, I don't know if it's gone fast or not, but just, it's
always
been good.
does.
Yeah.
College football, especially, right?
Yeah, college football for some reason seems to go faster to me. I don't know why that is, but regardless, so we have that. Major League Baseball, we got World Series right here in where I live, and so we got 3 games on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Arizona trying to pull the biggest surprise since I don't even know when. Okay, to be perfectly honest, I think they. Not a Diamondbacks fan, but they got a legitimate shot. Okay, after that Game 2 victory. So, but 26-16 run in the playoffs the last 3 years, and then hit yet another prop bet yesterday with Travis Etienne getting an anytime touchdown. So happy about that. So with that, 3-1 start in the NBA right now, exactly 500 in the in hockey. So not a great start, but hey, you know what? It's October. Let's not get all worked up about it. Okay, from that standpoint. So I'm happy with how things are progressing. Things are going. Ross, why don't you tell the folks how they're going for you?
They're going pretty good, Doug. I went, and thank you for asking. I went 5-5 over the weekend. Unfortunately, I lost my 2 higher ranked plays in college, the one in college football and the one in the NFL. So, but in any event, 2-2 in the NFL going into tonight. Looking to cash tonight, and you can get my pick up right now over at gamblersworld.net. I have the winning total in tonight's game. And folks, I'm going for my, this is week 8. I'm going for my 7th consecutive winning week in a row in the NFL. As a matter of fact, over that course of time, 22-13, which is pretty darn good. And also college football, even though I've tailed off a little bit in the last 3 weeks, I'm sort of like treading water and losing a little bit of money. Okay. But I got off to that torrid start, and I'm going to finish strong. Rest assured, folks, because even with the so-so last 3 weeks, since December 2nd of last year, 52-33, which is good for 61.2% with my college football premium selections. NFL and college football combined, 52-32, good for 62% since September the 14th. I already mentioned my NFL. Major League Baseball, 8-3 with my last 11 in the postseason, this postseason, and also going back to August the 4th, 57-35 with my Major League Baseball selections, good for 62%. And I can't emphasize this enough. I say it every time, but I'm going to continue to drive that home because it's important when it comes to money line betting. When I go 62%, you're going to make a heck of a lot more money than somebody who goes 62% or better in a lot of occasions, because I'm not laying big numbers. I'm not asking you to take 160, 170 favorites. So God bless anybody who does and is successful doing it. My point is that your ROI with me going 62% over that course of time made you a lot of money. In any event, you can get me at gamblersworld.net. And don't forget, folks, at gamblersworld.net, if you do not win, you do not make a profit on any single game or multi-game daily package, and also subscription plans of 30 days or fewer. We will credit your account back the exact amount that you spent on that particular package on that particular day, or at the end of your subscription plan. If you're not at a profit margin, we will credit back your account at that time. And hopefully, like it's been most of the time, that's been a moot point. But in any event, folks, 9 other great handicappers there beside myself. Right now, Sean Higgs and Chip Chirimbus are on fire right now. So not only check me out, but check the other guys out as well. Give them some love. In any event, don't forget Friday, we go live again, like every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time with Sean Higgs and Jesse Schule. And Doug, there's a like button. And Doug always tells us what he wants us to do with the like button. And it's usually a different response every time.
Well, that's part of just trying to be clever, Ross. Come on, I could do the same thing every time if that's the case. So I'm just thinking punching bag this time. Boom, boom, boom.
All right, punch that like button, folks. And if you want, you could just tap it. It serves the same purpose. And it's just a small token of your appreciation for the time, effort, and research that we do on making this a quality podcast that it is, and making you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. Okay, for that clever fellow Doug Upstone, and also for Ross Benjamin, I'd like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Sean and Jesse, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So the show will be archived around 11 o'clock. Until then, take care and God bless, folks.